Hello, hello, fellow gun enthusiasts. Welcome to another video of Philippine Ricochet Line. And today we are going to discuss a new bill, one that we have discussed before in a live stream. And the bill seeks to ban sports shooters and gun collectors. I think it is very important that we discuss this bill because amid all the frenzy of the impending lifting on the ban on semi-auto rifles as of March 22, 2024. Some things might go under the radar, and it's important for us to discuss all of these topics as well because they will all inform us on what is going on in the background. And some of these bills are really bad. So let's get to it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like this video, please consider sharing this video, giving it a thumbs up, and subscribing to Philippine Ricochet Line. It really helps with the algorithm. We also have a Buy Me a Coffee link for those of you who are interested in seeing this work continue. And to all of you who support this channel in any way, even by just simply liking the video, sharing it, and subscribing to it, let alone donating, thank you very much. None of this work will be possible without your help. So let's continue. Now, before we delve deeper into this topic, it is important to note that I am not a journalist, and this video is simply for educational purposes only. Do not consider this as legal advice. A lot of these images I do not own, so thank you for those who provided them. Now, I will provide you with all of the documentation and links in the video description below. Please access it if you want the sources. Philippine Ricochet Line prides itself in providing documentation to almost all of its reports. We do not operate on rumors. We always try to provide documentation. So please click the documents below on the links provided so that you can access them and see for yourself what they really are. Now, this is not a political video. Personally, I have nothing against Brother Eddie Villanueva. This is a video that simply seeks to discuss the issue that he will create with this new bill. So let's talk about it and what effect it will have on gun privileges here in the Philippines. Now, I just want to share with you what I know and what my sources also know so that you will be more informed. It is best that all gun owners, or as many gun owners as possible, know as much as they can on this topic so that they can make better decisions. And of course, as expected, Philippine Ricochet Line is obviously biased to legal ownership of firearms. Please take that to heart. I wouldn't be doing this if I weren't biased to the legal ownership of firearms and to legal gun owners. I wear my bias on my sleeve as part of my ethics. So, House Bill 9718 is a draft bill proposed by Brother Eddie Villanueva. Essentially, what it wants to do is to limit gun ownership here in the Philippines to just 20 guns and 50 rounds of ammo per each registered firearm. So as I mentioned, this bill does limit the amount of firearms that you can register. Currently, with a Type 5 license, you can register up to an unlimited amount of firearms in your license to own and possess firearms, provided that it is Type 5. This bill will limit that. Now, it also limits ammunition possession to just 50 rounds maximum. Now, for most gun owners, this will not have an effect, but for sports shooters, this will be quite annoying because sports shooters store lots of ammo so that they will have plenty to use at the range when they compete or when they practice. Sports shooters burn through thousands of rounds of ammo. They need it to practice their hobby and craft. And they need that to develop skill. You cannot do it with just 50 rounds per range trip. This bill is a big concern to us, or should be a big concern to us, because it essentially mandates confiscation. And anybody possessing more than the prescribed number of firearms and ammunition will be required within 90 days to surrender all of that to the PNP. Now, this is very bad because people work hard for their firearms and ammunition. They shouldn't be required to surrender it because that would be very, very unfair. This is one of the issues why I think that making RA 10591 a privilege is problematic to a certain extent because it gives anti-gun legislation more teeth to effectively mandate gun owners to do things which are, as in this case, of course, very unethical in terms of surrendering property that you worked very hard to legally obtain. Firearms and ammunition cost a lot of money. And nobody should ever be required, nobody should ever tell you to surrender it provided that you are following the law. If you have those firearms registered to your name and you are appropriately licensed, then you should be allowed to keep them. And anybody requiring you to surrender them to the PNP FEO is, how should I say, being a very dystopian, if not dictatorial, politician. Now, this bill claims that it will reduce gun crime. I don't think it will do that. And it uses statistics with questionable sources and improper context. I don't think eliminating gun collectors and sports shooters will have any effect at all in reducing gun crime. Criminals who use firearms obtain their firearms illegally outside the law. That's why they're called outlaws. Any additional legislation on this topic will not help. So let's discuss this. Let's discuss what Brother Eddie Villanueva cooked up. And let's also discuss its effects. Personally, I don't think that there is much to discuss on the effects. It will have no effect on gun crime. I have yet to see any statistic that shows me how much of the gun crimes committed here in the Philippines are being done by gun collectors and sports shooters. So, it's very important to note that when bills like this turn up, it is usually a knee-jerk reaction to a certain media coverage. And in this case, this is it. As you know, Rappler, a mainstream media outlet that is very liberal and should I say very anti-gun, has recently, back in December, released this article about Duterte getting licenses for over 300 guns 2 weeks before his term ended. Now, I can imagine that Duterte got a lot of those guns because they were gifted to him. He was, after all, the president of the Republic of the Philippines. So anyway, that's what happened. They released this article, a very, very, how should I say, questionably written article. And this has caused quite a stir in Congress. Anyway, the result, or one of the results, is House Bill 9718. So, the first target of this new House bill are sports shooters. So what exactly are sports shooters? Sports shooters are individuals who participate in competitions that involve the use of firearms. Philippines has a lot of sports shooters. There are lots of local and international competitions that we participate in because firearms ownership here in the Philippines is quite prolific compared to a lot of our neighbors here in Southeast Asia, which ban the use of firearms. Anyway, they bring fame and honor to the Philippines, and that is a good thing. They also encourage responsible and skilled use of firearms. Now, sports shooters go through lots and lots of rounds of ammunition. They need it to practice thoroughly. After all, you cannot just waste so much time getting to a range only so that you can fire 50 rounds at a time. You need to have thousands of rounds to practice your craft. Now, some sports shooters, to improve the accuracy of their shots, load their own ammunition. That's how passionate and stringent their standards are. This is important in their hobby. Anyway, sports shooters have a constant need for new barrels as well. Sports shooters burn through their firearms a lot because firearms, like any mechanical object, will wear and tear over time with heavy use. And while the bill doesn't certainly have any effect on the procurement of new barrels and other firearms parts that wear out with constant use, it's important to note that sports shooters have that need. In order for you to become a sports shooter, you need to select that option when applying for a license. Okay, there is that tick box in the LTAP form that you can just check out. You need to pay an extra fee for it, I think, though. So you need to take note of that if you want to be a sports shooter. Anyway, there are also gun collectors. These are also targeted by the bill. Gun collectors are people who collect firearms as a hobby or passion. They have lots of guns, usually more than 25, although I can argue that having 2 or more firearms can constitute a collection. But by law, typically, as far as Republic Act 10591 is concerned, you need a Type 5 license to become a gun collector. So anyway, they have lots of firearms, and they pay a huge money to maintain those licenses and registrations. So again, you can be a gun collector by ticking that option when applying for a firearms license. So just note that in case you want to be one. Some gun collectors also collect firearms as a store of value. This can be very true for rare firearms. Those things can cost quite a lot of money, especially collectors' firearms. Not a bad idea since the value of firearms also grows with inflation. Now, House Bill 9718 of 19th Congress is very important to discuss for us because it is a draft bill that seeks to ban ownership of more than 20 guns and 50 rounds of ammo per registered firearm. This bill was proposed by Brother Eddie Villanueva. It's only 3 pages long, so you can read about it very quickly by clicking on the link that I provided below. And this bill does mandate the confiscation of all firearms and ammunition that exceed the proposed limit. Very bad for us gun collectors and sports shooters because it doesn't really provide any kind of compensation. And it is, of course, a knee-jerk reaction to Rappler's article, which is why we should be very wary, folks, when the media releases these articles. They have a very, very serious agenda to further infringe on our firearms privileges here in the Philippines. Now, this bill does not reduce gun crimes, obviously, because it specifically targets legal gun collectors and sports shooters, implying that they are the source of gun crimes, illegal firearms, and ammunition. Of course, the bill doesn't say that, but if you take everything into consideration, that's exactly what the bill implies. After all, you wouldn't make a bill like this if you didn't believe that sports shooters and gun collectors are the source of all of these problems and gun crimes and evil At least that's what some politicians seem to think. Now, criminals do not follow laws. I don't know of a criminal who collects legal firearms and then uses them in crimes. That's not how it operates. And it does make life harder for legal gun owners, even sports shooters, because if you're going to run around with just 50 rounds of ammo, you cannot really practice effectively for a competition. You will burn through 50 rounds of ammo in minutes if you are a sports shooter. Now, I would like to note here that this bill is very bad. Specifically, it does mandate confiscation. Anybody who owns 20 firearms, if this bill takes effect, that is, will be required to surrender any firearm in excess of 20 in their license within 90 days of the effectivity of this bill. So that's very bad. There will be no compensation. The same is true for the ammunition. Again, this is one of the reasons why I feel like it's problematic that we have firearms privileges instead of firearms ownership rights. If this was a right, it would be much harder for them to pull off this kind of stunt. And there will be no compensation. Again, I think any kind of confiscation on any kind of property is extremely unethical and immoral, and that applies to firearms as well. Firearms cost a lot of money, the same for ammunition. We work very, very hard to acquire firearms and ammunition. All of that will be easily confiscated if this bill takes effect. Now again, because of the nature of this bill, it will practically put an end to firearms collecting here in the Philippines, as well as the conveniences of being a sports shooter. Anybody who has more than 50 rounds, if this bill takes effect, that includes sports shooters, per registered firearm that is, will be required to surrender that to the PNP. Again, ammunition is very expensive, and I think that outright confiscation without compensation is just practically immoral and unethical. And I find it really strange that Brother Eddie Villanueva will be proposing something like this. It's practically legalized theft of firearms and ammunition in excess of the proposed quantity. So, folks, I don't want to make this video too long, but I just wanted to say that this bill is bad news for us gun owners. We should do everything in our ability to stop it from ever taking effect, even passing Congress. And I don't think that any bill should be made to discriminate against law-abiding gun owners and sports shooters, which is exactly what this bill does. It targets them specifically and mandates the confiscation of their legally obtained property. And it also punishes law-abiding gun owners who do nothing but follow the law. And at the same time, this bill will do nothing to reduce gun crimes, because the only way that that will happen is if gun collectors are statistically proven to be supplying armed gangs with firearms and ammunition. You should also include sports shooters in that group if this bill is to be believed. That is not true. I am not aware of any gun collector or sports shooter that uses their privilege to supply gangs with illegal arms and ammunition. So if you like your gun privileges, please do not vote for politicians who make bills like this. Brother Eddie Villanueva, I don't have anything against the guy, but he's an anti-gun politician now, and this bill confirms it. So, again, I don't like telling people who to vote for, but if you care about your gun privileges, then You don't need me to tell you that he is working against the interests of all law-abiding gun owners here in the Philippines. So there you go, guys. That's all I wanted to talk about here in House Bill 9718. If you like this video, please consider liking it, sharing it, and subscribing to Philippine Ricochet Line. And do, please, if you can, donate to buy me a coffee. And if you do, I'll be more than happy to talk to you in person and answer any questions that you may have regarding these things, as well as provide you with these materials. So thank you to all of those who have helped, to all those who donated, and even to all of those who do just the little things like liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it. Thank you very much. I hope you learned a lot from this video, and as always, I'll see you again in the next video. Thank you for watching.